Hi there, everyone. Wow, you've been sharing. Thank you. Thank you. That's really amazing. I think everyone is firing on all cylinders tonight. Well, please keep up the good work. 181 shares already. That's amazing. Okay. Hi, Dolores. Thanks for sharing. Hi, Kay. Hi, Carmen. Hi, Deborah. Sandy, Lana. Okay, Deborah has made up a new word. Is that allowed? I suppose. Karen says that. Well, it's not unkosher if that's what you mean. Steve says it's a verb, action word regarding greeting fellow friends. Kay says the Movement for a People's Party is having an organized call now too. Send them our regards. Steve Wolfbrand says, Cheryl Ann Butler. Okay, hi Cheryl Ann Butler. Carmen says, looking for a bag of popcorn. And Kay says, what is your take on the People's Party? He asks Kay. So Kay, what is your take on the People's Party? Okay, I'm not aware. Okay, I'll give my take, okay, while we're waiting for Kay's take. It doesn't seem to me the People's Party has been formed yet, has it? I think there's a movement for a People's Party that's been formed, but I thought that the People's Party was likely to be formed at the convention is upcoming. Carmen says the sound is different but clear. Thank you, Carmen. I'm glad it's clear. Let me see if the setting is remaining. No, it's shifted over to the system sound again, all by itself. That is quite annoying, and I'm not sure what causes it. I would like to stop that from happening. And Kay says shared. Sandy says waving. And Lana says too much emphasis on UBI for me. And Steve says good evening, Dr. Joseph. Thank you, Steve. Okay, so by now you probably know that I posted another 2 videos today, shorter videos, not that short really, I think 21 minutes and 19 minutes, on the 2 executive orders of Donald Trump on unemployment benefits and on his attempts to postpone the payroll taxes, or the withholding of the payroll taxes, which I don't think is going to happen. I don't think that's going to work. So Kay says they're trying to be formed by the next election to be a viable party. Yes, I know. I thought they were going to officially be formed as a political party at the convention that is coming up. I guess the exact date is still to be announced, but probably it will come up before the end of this month. I suppose right after the Dem convention. I am very, very interested in doing what I can through my live streaming to build up the People's Party by 2022, and then again by 2024. We so badly need it, so we don't have to have any more problems like the selections of Joe Biden and by Kamala Harris. Kay says August 30th, Joe. Yeah, I thought it would be August the 30th.
That's all I see on my machine.
Oh, is that all you see on your machine?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I forgot to fix this. All you're seeing, I guess, is the promo. I'm told by Bonnie that's all she's seeing on her machine. And that's because I haven't stopped sharing the screen. There I am. Here we go. Carmen says, we can't see you. Thank you, Carmen. And Sandy says, I shared the convention info everywhere. But thank you, Sandy. I haven't seen your share yet, but I suppose I will. It's really good to have that information. I don't want to have any more comma chameleons. You remember that song, comma, 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 chameleon, you come and go. Anyway, I hope they make at least equal time for hashtag job guarantee as they do for the UBI. Well, that's going to depend on us. If we join up and we push it, then it seems to me that they will make equal time for the job guarantee as they do about the UBI. The video was circulating on YouTube this week. It was among the recommended things. That is a pretty short video that Pavlina did. It was cut from a longer session. Must have been maybe 2 years ago now, or 3 years ago, where she takes the position that job guarantee is the foremost policy, but that it's compatible with a BI. So that is a video that has been circulating. Sandy has an emoji which I can't see in my StreamYard interface. That's what I'm looking at right now. Matt says, are there any good movements to reform how our elections are conducted? We need an open and a fair electoral system that cannot be so easily manipulated by the Dems, and Republicans. The Movement for a People's Party has a good item in their platform on elections. It's all about the paper ballots. They seem to have taken it from Tim Canova's work. Steve Wolfbrand says, Comma Chameleons was a fake song as well. Lip syncing could be a good theme song for her. Yeah. I don't know if she'd appreciate the words of the theme song. Comma Chameleon. And Deborah Wilson says, exit polling tells the tale. It may tell the tale, but it's not official. It tells us we've been cheated, but there's very little we can do about it after that. So there's a problem for you. I think what we have to do is include exit polling when we reform the current system. So, okay, just a little bit, of information. Excellent idea, Steve, says Carmen. Just a little information. According to the Worldometer site, we have now gone above 170,373 deaths. So Kamala cited 165,000 just yesterday. She was behind the curve, actually. It was about 169,000 by then, but now it's 170,373. And that's, by the way, 514 deaths per million. So you can see how fast we're climbing. Sweden has been at 571 for some days now. So we've been gaining on Sweden very rapidly. I think when Sweden reached 571, we were at 490 or something like this. And we're at 514 per million now. So we are catching up to Sweden. So is Chile. They're still 24 ahead of us. And we are about 18 ahead of the Brazilians at this point. 18 people per million. They are rapidly gaining on us. By the way, COVID has been going crazy in Mexico. Also, they're now up to nearly 55,000 deaths there. And their new fatalities yesterday was 737. That is in a country that's, 2.7 times, we are 2.7 times their size in the population. So you can see if the rate at which they're running deaths now is much higher than the United States. They're catching up fast. They're at 423 deaths per million, catching up to France fast. So Brazil, the USA, and now Mexico, the first two are way ahead of France now, and the third is approaching France very, very rapidly. France was ahead of us all, something like a week and a half ago, or something like that. So I thought that information was useful to throw into the pot, at this point. And by the way, a little bit from New York Times today. There was an article there that is entitled, "The True Coronavirus Toll in the U.S. Has Already Passed 200,000. And this is based on estimated deaths above normal between March 1st and July 25th. And the estimated deaths above normal for that time, just that time. Doesn't count the February time period, but just that time. And it doesn't count from July 26th up to the present, of course, 8 to 13, but the estimated deaths were 200,000. Since we don't know of any other disease or unexpected cause of death that is raging in the United States since that time, probably the real estimate for COVID-19 deaths is not even 170,000, but more like 200,000. So the undercount is still substantial when it comes to fatalities. And that says, is the Jesse Ventura movement gaining any traction? I don't think it's gaining much traction. I think one of the reasons why is that Jesse Ventura, for personal reasons having to do with health and his family, I think his wife is still very, very sick, does not want to undertake a run for president, at this point. He keeps getting asked, but I don't think he's willing to venture it. actually right now. Some things are more important to people than running for president. Sandy Dick says they should have started much earlier. Well, in a way, they did. They've been organizing since the end of the 2016 election. Of course, they were doing a lot to support the Bernie Sanders effort, okay, in this particular period of time. But they've been doing a lot of organizing. They have something like 66,000 people who are members of the Movement for a People's Party, okay, at this point. So they must be beginning to rival the Democratic Socialists of America in the size of the organization. Kay says August 30th, Joe. Carmen says we can't see you. I guess I went over some of these already. And Matt asks, who are the principal advisors for the People's Party platform? It looks like they're supporting public banking. They are supporting public banking. And I think a lot of the People's Party platform came from Bernie's platform, both in for the 2016 run and for the 2021. They've had some MMT advice from Steve Grumbine, actually. I know that. And I think they've gotten some MMT advice from some other sources as well. They've also gotten some advice from the AMI, Monetary Reform School. And I don't think they've incorporated that, but they have had a lot of people advocating for basic income. And so that shaped a part, okay, of the platform too. But I think most of the platform has been simply adopted from Bernie Sanders's, from his particular platform. They offer Medicare for all, of course. They offer a Green New Deal, all that good stuff. They're for money out of politics very strongly. And they have a very good platform. So if you go to their site at, what is it, peoplesparty.org, something like that, you'll be able to find them and see their platform. I had it up. Just let me give you the URL exactly here. I probably have it handy. Not quite as handy as I thought, I'm afraid. Yeah, it's at peoplesparty.org. The person most behind it is Nick Brana, Brana. He used to be an organizer for Bernie Sanders in the 2016 campaign. Seems like a very good person and a very well-motivated person. And you can take a look at their site and check them out. Okay, peoplesparty.org. That's where you'll find them. I think they've talked to Ellen Brown also, and they are for public banking. They're for postal banking also. Kay says, I hear Ohio is going for ranked choice voting. That would be wonderful if they did. Jenny Degg says, great question, Matthew Arado. Steve says, I know people dead and sick from COVID. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad. I don't know any people who have died. I don't know any people who are sick, okay, from COVID, which is good because I live in a development where everybody is over 55 and most people are over 70. So it is good to find out that as far as we know, there are no people here who have had COVID. Nick Brana, okay. Materato says this is crazy. Many employers are deeming it far too unsafe to open their offices, yet we are sending kids and teachers back to school. It is absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But I don't think they're doing this, generally speaking, all over. Because Trump is not able to order that. And I think local schools are making decisions that are different. Of course, in some states, the governors are mandating that the schools have to open. I think a lot of the schools here, okay, in this state, are exercising the option to do Zoom classes. And Mexico needs the Cuban doctors, Carmen says. Yes, they have. They can probably have Cuban doctors if they want, and Cuban interferon if they want also. And Sandy Deck says, I'm so happy. I am not happy about going back to school. I'm sure, Sandy. I'm sure. And we're not happy to have you go back to school either. It's awfully dangerous for people who are over 60. I bet, Sandy. Florida was threatened that they won't receive funding if they don't have in-class attendance by the 30th. Yeah, I know, but that's just a threat. It may be an empty threat because the school districts, the states involved, could go to court and they probably could make it stick that the Department of Education cannot compel class attendance, okay, in an emergency. But we have to see. Sandy says that's insane. Yes, it is. Deborah says it's Nick Brana, okay. And Rod, yes, his brother Rod is also there as well. And Kay says, yes, that's him, Deborah. And Sandy says, you need to get Nick on the show. I guess that's for me. I'd love to have Nick on the show, but we have 18 people who are here now. I'd like to be able to guarantee Nick at least 40 to 50 people if he comes on the show. And I am nowhere near able to do that, okay, at this point. I think we're needing a larger share army. Hi, Evelina. Why did the Spanish flu disappear after 2 years and killing many millions of people? Did it mutate out? Will COVID mutate out? I think that there maybe was a degree, okay, of herd immunity to it after a period of time, but I'm not certain. I'm not certain. Of course, there are various other flu strains that have come back since that time, and we've been able to handle them through vaccine development, okay, in recent years. Evelina says, hi, Kay. Deborah Wilson says, yeah, Nick's real, articulate, and sensible sounding. Yes, and he seems also to be very moderate as a person, very kind. He has a personality that's good, that seems to be good, for dealing with a distributed type of organization. And he seems to be organizing the People's Party as a distributed form of organization that is bottom up, is really bottom up. He seems to be trying to run it in that way. I was on a call a couple of months back, I guess it is, and I got a strong impression, of a bottom up type of spirit on that particular call. They're running Zoom calls every week. Carmen says, did it come from animals like COVID? I don't know if people know the origins of the Spanish flu back then. Kay says parts of EU are rising again on the virus. I'm sure they are, but nowhere near at the rate, Kay, that we are. Even when I look at the stats, the deaths per million that we've had, in some of the European countries have been very high. For example, in Belgium, the deaths per million is 854. We have a long way to go to get there. But we have had 15 new deaths there since just yesterday. That's roughly the equivalent of what, maybe 500 deaths here in the United States. So even if the deaths are starting to rise there again, it's nowhere near the rate at which they're rising here. Spain had 26 new deaths. That's more than they've been having. They have a population of 47 million people, which means it's the equivalent of roughly about 140 new deaths here. And as we know, we were at something like 1,400 yesterday. So even though Spain is having a little more trouble, and I'm sure they're alarmed about it, nowhere near the rate, that we're having. Now, in the UK, they had been at 609 deaths per million. So they were, they have had a very high rate per million. There are roughly 68 million people here. So they're roughly 5 times the United States. And they had 18 new deaths yesterday. So that's roughly equivalent overnight to about 100 deaths here, while what we really have here is, I think, was roughly 1,400 deaths overnight, but I have to look at it. It's 1,300 or 1,400. The USA, it was 1,242 deaths overnight. So 12 times what's going on, in England in terms of an equivalent, right now. Look at the Italians, which had been running at 583 deaths per million, had 6 deaths yesterday. So Italy's about we're 5.5 times Italy. So what is that? If we were Italy, we would have had 36 deaths yesterday as opposed to 1,242 deaths. So I think I'd rather be Italy. Sweden went up also by 6 deaths, but that's the equivalent of something like 200 deaths here. So just some comparisons. France had 17 deaths. which is about the same rate per million since yesterday, okay, as the UK had. Something like that. So yeah, they're starting to spike again and they're getting alarmed and they'll be taking vigorous efforts to control it. Certainly that's going to be happening, but they're nowhere near in the kind of trouble that we are right now. Carmen says drier air makes it worse. I don't know, Carmen. We've had a lot of humid air here, and it's still been getting worse. So Steve says, I don't know, Carmen, the technology in 1917 was not good. Steve says, Brana. And Kay says, they had a mask law back then, though. Carmen says, I don't remember what it was, but Brana pissed me off, turned me off. It probably was on MMT or something. He didn't take to MMT that well. Matt says, does anyone know the status of the left, okay, in European countries? If we had to rank order them, which country is the most progressive? Okay, among the European countries, I guess the Nordic countries are still the ones, okay, that are the most progressive. Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and maybe Finland could be included, okay, in that particular group. The Czech Republic is probably right now very progressive. So I guess they're the four most progressive. Or that's not four, that's five. So I name them as the five. Okay, I think Spain is trying to get, okay, a lot more progressive, but they're still divided in terms of politics. Okay, the progressives haven't won a full victory there. And the same is true, okay, of Italy, of course. Evelina says, did you hear that 4 Iranian tankers were just sequestered and on their way to Texas? Isn't that an act, okay, of piracy? Rhetorical. Yes, it is. My real question is, think that Abrams had anything to do with it? Yes, I do. I do. Abrams is crazy. International law doesn't mean a fucking thing to Abrams. He violates it all the time. That probably makes Trump have an orgasm. And Kay says, I think my friend from the towers is gone, as I still have not heard anything from her. Sad. A nice, younger woman. Carmen says, war hawks are looking for an excuse to start shit again. The Pentagon didn't get all that COVID funding for nothing. Evelina says, Argentina will be making the Oxford vaccine, and Mexico will be responsible for packaging and distributing to the rest, okay, of Latin America. That is good news. Yes, that probably is good news. I understand it's shaping up as perhaps a very effective vaccine, but they still have to do more testing. I don't think they're through with phase 3 yet, are they, Evelina? As far as I know, they haven't actually approved it, okay, for distribution as yet, but it will be good. But in any case, the interferon from Cuba can be effective, okay, in ameliorating the disease right now, I believe. Steve says France, Spain, Portugal would be my guess. No, I still think it's the Nordic countries. I think the Nordic countries are more progressive, especially Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Matarado says, Evelina Pont, Iran is supporting Venezuela, but those shipments, yes, I think those shipments were intended for Venezuela and for Maduro. Elizabeth Warren called Maduro an obvious dictator who was killing his own people. Captain America to the rescue. That is is rather ridiculous. He is no more an obvious dictator there than Trump is here. I hate to inform anybody of that, but he doesn't seem to me as outrageous in his actions as Trump is here, at least when it comes to repressing the opposition. I don't think they try to rig elections down there. From all that we know from the international observers who go there, those elections are fair. A lot fairer than our elections are becoming. Carmen says the elite, progressive, wishy-washy hair Warren. Hair Warren. Steve says, Doc, if you had guests with larger followings than your own, they would attract people to your show. Don't be afraid to invite people. What have you got to lose? It's not that I have anything to lose. I want to be able to, and also I don't think I'm asking for too much, but I want to be able to give a decent sized audience to these people. I mean, if not, I'm going to be wasting their time. Okay, in Nick's case, he's got lots and lots, okay, of followers now, and he's looking to pull, okay, a lot more people in. So I think I've got to have a decent following for him. Lana says, different topic. I recall Trump's first State of the Union speech. He said he wanted the military spending bill to be fully funded. I believe this was before Nancy came back as Speaker. Did they lift pay-go during that time? No. They haven't lifted pay-go, but what they do is they make exceptions to pay-go for certain bills. Is that all it takes? Well, all it takes is making exceptions for the bills they want to make exceptions for. Yeah, she lifts it for particular appropriations. She's playing a game. When it comes to doing anything progressive, she doesn't want to lift it. Then it's pay-go. Otherwise, it's not pay-go. Evelina says that maybe the bare sanctions have something to do with it. Sanctions. I'm not sure, Evelina, what that is. Have something to do with it. How callous can them politicians be? Maybe severe sanctions have something to do with it. Them politicians can be so callous. Oh, let's type ahead on Facebook. Steve says, I must have shared to 20 groups. Why aren't there more people here? I don't know. Maybe they're all at the call for a People's Party. Let me see how many shares we have now. Politicians be. Maybe severe sanctions. We have 216 shares. So we have a very good amount of shares. It should be enough for a larger group. Okay, I'm sure we have also much more than 20 shares from some of our people as well, Steve. I'm not critiquing. I'm very grateful for 20 shares. I think that's a very, very good amount of shares for one person. And it's important that people stay out of Facebook jail. I think that's very important. Steve says, okay, I'm going to invite people personally. F them. Steve, don't get into jail. Okay. Lana says, me too, Steve, to my own page and about 10 groups. Matt says, conversation with Joe Firestone is never wasted, larger audience or not. Well, okay, I'm glad you feel that way, Matt, but I don't believe I've talked to Nick before, and I'm not sure he would share that particular opinion. But I know some of my candidates in 2018, okay, that I interviewed then, probably would share that particular opinion. James Edwards says, I don't remember the details, but I remember reading about a report from the military in the 1970s that detailed the future of warfare having inevitable biological component as nations engineer viral weaponry for dispersal before hostilities. The report concluded the only defense was to radically rethink how we do healthcare as a nation by declaring healthcare to be a critical national strategic asset and giving it a military-sized budget. The military determined, okay, that any nation, okay, and there was some more there too. James, healthcare in the United States has a military-sized budget. Specifically, what we spend on healthcare per year in the United States right now is something like 3.8 trillion. Okay, it may be higher now. Last time I checked it was maybe 5 or 6 months ago, but we spend 3.8 trillion as a nation. If we were to go to Medicare for all, we would save a minimum, I tell you, of $1 trillion a year on that health care, cover everybody, and get far better health care and public health out of it. Of course, healthcare spending, most of the healthcare spending would then be done by the federal government. But that healthcare spending would go to the providers. It's not similar to the NHS. It's a system where the insurance companies, okay, are basically put out, okay, of most of the healthcare business, and all the basic healthcare is paid for by the government, and the government then pays for and also negotiates with the providers to hold down the costs. So that's the situation, but we've never passed a Medicare for all bill. We've never passed a Medicare for all bill, but we have developed an annual budget for healthcare that is 5 times or more the size of our military budget. Unless you also consider the Department of Homeland Security as part of the military budget. I'm just talking about the Defense Department budget. And Rashid Mohammed put in a link to Keith Rubino, the video by Keith Rubino on Facebook. Kay says, I value these discussions a lot. Sandy says, well, I value your valuing these discussions a lot, Sandy. I mean, Kay. And Sandy says, do you have some more views the day after your show? Yes, I do. I do have some more views, okay, the day after the show. I usually get 25 to 30%, okay, additional views the day after the show, especially when there are a lot of shares for a particular show. Okay, and when the 3 members of the Share Army are here at once and are sharing, okay, at once, then the views go considerably above the 1K value to about 1.5K or something like that. And the attendance usually goes up till it's close to 30, or maybe even over 30. So if we had 2 or 3 more people in the Share Army, we could probably consistently bring attendance up to 40 or something like that. And at that point, I would feel comfortable inviting some fairly big names here that I used to interview when I was live streaming for RP, and there was a much larger Share Army backing me up at that point. But share armies are so important for shows like this one. Very important. And Lana says, if you made the announcement ahead of time so we can invite people, I think we would have a bigger audience. Well, that's true. And I can do that when I invite people for interviews. I can do that a lot more in advance because for that kind of show, I'm not working to structure a program, of my own. In other words, I'm trying to create these integrated programs where I put together a lot of different happenings and synthesize an overall view of what is going on the day of the show. So of course it's hard for me to announce the topic until really shortly before showtime. But if I invite somebody or if I invite some people, it's mainly an interview show. Then I can develop it as a special event, and we could have a bigger audience then. Yes. Darren Brown says 2/3 of healthcare spending is already subsidized by the federal government now, directly or indirectly. Yes, it is. The estimates of David Himmelstein and Steffi Woolhandler, the most recent estimate showed that of the, I think they were working on a total figure of something like 3.5 or 3.6 trillion, at that time. And of that figure, something between 2.5 and 2.6 trillion was actually funded either directly or indirectly by the federal government. Yes, that is true, Darren. Lana, what are your thoughts on how Kamala Harris has voted as a senator? I read on a friend's page that some are saying she has evolved from being top cop. Do you agree? I wouldn't exactly say so, but I refer you to a new article that appeared, on Jacobin today. It was written by Branko Marcetic, who wrote the book on by Joe Biden. And the name of the article is Where is it now? What happened to it? Joe Biden has found his neoliberal match in Kamala Harris. And that article, which, as I say, is in Jacobin. And when was it done? Just yesterday, on August 12th. He was probably ready with the article. And I believe I scanned it. I didn't go over it in great detail, but my impression is it's a very good catalog of the relatively few progressive things she's done and the very bad positions and votes that she's taken over a period of time. So undoubtedly, exactly what she's done in the Senate will be cataloged here, by Branko Marcetic, who usually does a thorough job of these things. So he's going to give a balanced view in this article. It's going to be pretty thorough. So I commend it to you. I may very well cover it on Saturday myself. Looks like a very good piece. Anyway, so here we are. Let me get back to your comments. So my thoughts on how she voted as a senator is that actually she was progressive on some things when it came to the military, when it came to war, when it came to homeland security. She was not. She co-sponsored certain things, of course, like the Medicare for All bill at first. I don't know if she's a Green New Deal co-sponsor. I'm not sure she was. On that, people pretty well think that she will be vigorous, compared to others at least, in the climate change uh, in, environmental area. Some people have hoped that she's changed her views since being a severe top cop and might be ready to do some things to change the criminal justice system so that it's more like a justice for all system rather than just a justice for some. Sandy says, I think I posted that article on the Biden record. Thank you, Sandy. Steve says, I value her value of valuing Kay's valuing of your show. Carmen says, interview Trump the skunk. Lana says, I've heard she voted most of the time with Bernie, but not sure on that. I think she voted with Bernie much of the time on, on various bills. She definitely tried to make a turn to the left in 2019. When she was running, she tried to make a turn to the left. And I think that is certainly true. Dolores says, I'm going to try to find more people by checking out some new groups to join. My God, Dolores, aren't you a member of enough groups? I mean, how many groups are you a member of now? 100 groups? Evelina says that would make us throw up. I'm not sure what that is that would make us throw up. And Kathy Langtot says, Harris has no ideology of her own. She goes whichever direction is expedient for her career. That's the impression I get about her, too. If she thinks it's expedient, to go in a progressive direction, she will. And she probably won't let anybody stop her. But no, I take that back. She'll probably let the donors stop her. She did before. In other words, she was going in the Medicare for All direction pretty strongly. Then she got some strong comments from donors. And within a month or two, she changed her direction. So Carmen says, but it'll give the show more views. Carmen says, like Pocahontas. Carmen says, sounds exactly like par for the course for politicians these days. And Rashid Muhammad says, all I got to say is hashtag never Biden. And Steve says, Doc, if you pitched yourself as a PhD specialist on MMT with your own show, which you are, I believe you could be invited to guest on some big shows like Graham Elwood, Joe Rogan, Jimmy Dore, Katie Halper, etc. Yeah, maybe, but I'm not a specialist. Okay, in other words, I don't define myself as a specialist, on MMT. I know a lot about MMT. I've written 7 books on the subject, so I know a lot about MMT. compared to most people. And I think I explained it pretty well also. But my vision for this show is that it's a progressive commentator show. It's about opinion. It's about opinion of a progressive character. It's about pushing the agenda of the progressive movement, okay, and the progressive movement itself, while being factual and being fair. And it's about using all my experience and all my skills and all my knowledge. I have a PhD in international relations and comparative politics. Where appropriate, okay, I want to use that. I've been studying domestic policy for years and years and years, and history for years and years and years, and I want to do that. I'm not trying to have an MMT show. Of course, I want to include MMT and talk about MMT on the most important subjects in MMT from time to time, and I always want to reflect an MMT perspective when I'm talking economics, because in that area I am an MMT economist, or at least an MMT political economist for sure. But that's not me. I don't want to be pigeonholed, okay, in that way. I will gladly accept slower growth if I become defined as a generalist in the progressive area who knows a lot about certain subjects, such as MMT. Okay, but I don't want to be pigeonholed, okay, in that area. That's not me. And Lana says, I think you are right, Kathy. And Steve says, me neither. And Sandy says, think I posted that article in the Biden Record. Thank you, Sandy. And Evelina says, didn't Dr. Joe mention it the other day? She said Bernie and another senator voted with her when it wasn't her idea. Can you believe the cheek? Yeah. She has a lot of cheek. She certainly has cheek. And Steve says, I'd recommend the Lauren Steiner to have you on. We're personal friends. Well, thank you, Steve. I'd be happy to go on Lauren's show. Okay, I think that Lauren is extremely bright, entertaining, a very animated, a conversationalist, and I certainly feel simpatico with her. I think we could have a good conversation. And Rashid Muhammad says, hashtag Kamala Harris. Oh, he said, I'm sorry, hashtag, but never Kamala Harris. Yes. Kay says, California's on fire again. It's very dry all over the Southwest. Phoenix has set an all-time record for the hottest summer ever. I'm glad I got out of there. Hated it there anyway. Many people love it there. Yeah, our daughter loves the Los Angeles heat. She really does. Okay, and my cousin. Okay, I have a cousin who lives in Palm Desert, California, and she really seems to love it there. She really seems to love it. Steve Wolfbrand says, there are many progressive shows that are having each other on their shows. A semi-network would be fantastic. Yeah, I agree. It would be great if I get sufficiently large that I can get into that group and be talking to other people and them talking to me and going back and forth. And I love all their shows. I mean, they're, um, I spend a lot of time each day watching lots of the progressive shows with larger audiences than mine. And Evelina says, I agree, Kamala is self-serving, not about serving the public. Well, thus far, I think that she certainly has been in that way. I think that's a fair description of her thus far. Hopefully, it won't always be that way. And Lana says, we would be sick if you interviewed Trump, is I think where Evelina was going. I would never interview Trump. He would never come on my show. He would never come on my show. I would absolutely savage him. If he came on my show, I would call him a lying Don. That's what I would call him. Lying Don. He was the one. He had the nerve to call Ted Cruz a lying Ted. That fit Ted. But even more, it fit him. Sandy says, I think Trump is going to zero in on Kamala's personal past. She's got some skeletons. Yeah, Willie Brown, downtown Willie Brown. She's got that. Yes, I know she's got some skeletons, but she was entitled to a romantic life after all, right? But she was an adult. I mean, how is he going to talk about other people's sexual history? How is he going to have? I know he'll have the nerve to do it. He'll certainly have the nerve to do it because there's nobody more sleazy than he is. But of course, she'll be able to respond more than in kind, and she has an extremely sharp tongue. She will know exactly how to answer him. She may not have known how to answer Tulsi, but she knows how to answer Lion Don. Carmen says, yes, I love this show because of the progressive agenda. We already have enough of MMT activism. I don't know if we have enough MMT activism. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that my comparative advantage over a long period of time is that I am broader than that. At least that's what I believe. And so that's what I want to reflect in my programming. And I'm willing to wait for people to come around. As far as I can tell, there's no reason why they should not come to me if they come to, let's say, to Dave Doyle. Okay. There's no reason why they shouldn't come to me, okay, if they come to Jimmy Dore. There's no reason why they shouldn't come to me, okay, if they come to Kyle Kulinski. So, in fact, there are reasons to come to me as opposed to going to Kyle, okay, or even to some of the other bigger shows on television, because I know a lot more about a lot more things than many of the people on those shows. Anyway, now you've heard me sound like Trump for a minute or two. I don't want to do that. And Steve says, at least one bone, laugh out loud. And Evelina says, glad you're out there if you hated it. And Evelina says, so are progressives. Nobody likes her. And Kay says, going from southeast North Carolina, Green Swamp area to that dead space sucked. Plus, it's full of rednecks, okay, and yuppies. It's full of people from all over the country, isn't it, Kay? They go to Arizona. Dr. Joe's progressive spin is missing from a lot, Kay, of macroeconomics groups. Plus, your questions and inquiries get addressed. Yeah, well, a lot of the macroeconomists try to focus on not making value judgments. I have this very peculiar notion of the sciences that insists that value judgments enter science all the time. The important thing is to be objective about those particular value judgments. And I have some particularly details on what constitutes objectivity in that area. And they're written down if anybody's interested in knowing about them. Kathy Langtop gives a shout out to Megan Fraze. I guess it's Fraze, Freise. Evelina says, Lord, ha ha ha. Kay says, yeah, progressive news needs to make their own network like Free Speech TV did. It would be great. It probably would be great. It might be people are doing that over at Rockfin. I don't know. Carmen says, you'd slay Lion Don. He'd think I was mean. He'd think I was meaner than Kamala Harris. Was downtown Willie Brown a pimp? No, he was the mayor of San Francisco. At least I call him downtown Willie Brown. I don't know what others call him. It could be there was a downtown Willie Brown who was a pimp. I don't know about that. I didn't know who he was. Okay, but Willie Brown was a very cool political personality. In fact, he still is. And he was very knowledgeable when it came to the inside, okay, of California politics. And when it comes to having a teacher to teach one about what politics in California was really like, then, okay, if Kamala recruited Willie Brown to be her teacher, she did very well in terms of learning about the very political aspects, okay, of California. Because Willie Brown always knew what was going on in those days. And Sandy says, Trump and Harris going at each other, fireworks. Yeah, there would be fireworks. Kathy Langtot says, the entertainment, K, is endless. But this is not supposed to be about entertainment, folks. It's supposed to be about issues. Evelina says, Steve scares them off, laugh out loud. Steve Grumbine? Who's he scare off? Carmen says TV. Carmen says on TV. I'm not sure who's Carmen's talking to there. Kay says the best people I met in Arizona were the immigrants. James says, what are your thoughts on TYT being excluded from covering the National Convention 2020? Well, my thoughts are that is one of the more stupid things which the mainstream Democrats have done because TYT has been moving towards them over a period of time. The revolutionary sheen is off of TYT by now. I don't say the same thing for Justice Democrats, who are still out there pitching, but TYT seems to have been moving more and more to the mainstream each year. And so I think it was just a stupid move by the Democrats. Stupid move among an array of stupid moves. Like the whole idea of actively courting the suburban Republicans who were disgusted by Trump and at the same time abandoning, okay, the progressive left wing. I mean, that's just crazy. That guarantees a dying party. In other words, we just got invited out of the Democratic Party. Those people who had come in again because Bernie was running have just been invited out. And maybe this time, if we join up with the people who remained out from 2016, we'll have enough numbers to found that competing national party. And if we do, then I think the Democrats have to look out. If there's a party to the left, which is a force to be reckoned with, then they're really going to have to move left. They'll have no choice. It'll be move left or die. Because fighting with the Republicans over the center, with the declining centrist base, ain't going to be fun for them. Evelina says, Steven scares people off, laugh out loud. And Steve says, fucking boss, called in the middle. Calls in the middle of the show. I'm back. Okay, Steve. And Rashid Mohammed says, nothing to cover, just another coronation. Evelina says, Rashid Mohammed, haha, right. And Steve says, yeah, Willie appointed Kamala. Yes, he did. And Sandy says, I thought TYT are now part of the Disney umbrella. Has Jank sold out? I didn't think they were part of the Disney umbrella, but that'd be interesting if they are. If they're part of the Disney umbrella, then they're going to be going right? Then they're going to be real right. And Rashid said, now he should cover the protests. Now he should cover the protests delegates will have in Milwaukee. Yeah, he probably will. Carmen says TYT was funded by Disney or some major neoliberal entity. I don't know who it was or what it was. They got $20 million from somewhere. And Kathy Langtot says, regarding TYT, establishment Dems seem to be totally smacking down anyone who was even slightly progressive ever. Yeah, they're inviting us out of the party. I think we ought to accept the invitation. Kay says, I think I heard TYT even donated to the DNC. And Evelina says, Steve W., Dr. Joe. That's a shout out to the both of us, I think. And Steve Wolfbrand says, Willie appointed Kamala to 2 commissions, paying $70,000 each. And Steve says, she's a hoe. Okay. Carmen says, so he's a trick. Laugh out loud. Steve says, Kamala only went to 2 meetings. She's a hoe. Steve, let's talk about her policies and her actions while in office and the donations she takes from Wall Street. In that context, she's a hoe. In other words, let's talk about that where it really matters. Steve says TYT supported Hillary in 2016, only after Bernie withdrew, as I recall. I thought that Cenk was for Bernie for the campaign. Then he supported Hillary when it was all over. James Edwards says, any thoughts on the Green Party's field, in this election? Well, I don't think Howie Hawkins is the strongest candidate. I'm not familiar with the whole Green Party field. For example, I'm not sure who's running for the Green Party this round in California, where they might have a chance in some of the districts. I'm not sure where they have a chance in down ballot races that they should be contending for. I hope that Howie Hawkins can get enough votes to get them on the debate stage the next time around. That would be very worthwhile. Carmen says we've got to look her up on Open Secrets. Yeah, go ahead and look her up. I think her campaign was pretty open about where she was getting her money from. Sandy says, Steve has a colorful way of putting things. And he says she's on back page, laugh out loud. Yeah, Steve's a riot. And Deborah says, Cenk flipped to Hillary before the convention. How long before the convention? I can't really remember back that far, Deborah. And Carmen says, Bwahaha. Okay, any more little factoids or questions or thoughts? I didn't get really very many questions about my 5 short videos that I released this week. I was hoping to get some questions on those. They're on YouTube and they're on Facebook. And there's even one that's 6 minutes. And I think there's another one that's 9 minutes. Carmen says, can't stand Crisco-faced Cenk. Deborah says, too long before for me. Evelyn says, I like Anna Kasparian. James Edwards says, I'm sure we'll think of something. And Steve Wolfbrand says, oh, now what about this nasal spray for COVID? I haven't read anything about a nasal spray for COVID. I read something about an inhaler today. And Lana said, I didn't see all the videos. Well, take a look on my page. They're all on my page, and they're also on the YouTube page. The last 2 were on the memoranda, 2 of the memoranda by Trump, the unemployment one or the employment benefits one, and the payroll tax one. Okay, Evelina says Kamala's nasal. There was something on Futurism today about some people developing, an inhaler, which people can use every day to control COVID. The inhaler is based not on antibodies, but on the smaller nanobodies. And supposedly they got very, very good results with the inhaler. Have no idea what the inhaler would cost people. Have no idea whether it could be mass produced in a brief enough time to make a difference with respect to COVID. From the political standpoint, I suspect it's not going to make much difference before the election. Evelina says, LOL. Sandy says, in August of 2017, Cenk Uyghur struck a deal for $20 million in funding, partly from big-time Clinton backer Jeffrey Katzenberg. But it wasn't the first time he had done so. 3 years early, he received a $4 million investment from former Republican governor of Louisiana, Buddy Roemer. Buddy Roemer? My God. I didn't realize that. That's incredible. How can you be progressive and be running on Buddy Roemer's money? Anna's doing a Saturday talk show for Jacobin Now. Okay, it's very good. Is she doing that talk show with anybody, Kay, or just by herself? I'm sure she's interviewing people, but I mean, has she got a co-host? Sandy Degg says she has a link to fortrust.com exposing the Young Turks, Clinton, Disney's fake progressives. Thank you, Sandy, for that link. That seems like a very, very good link. Evelina says thanks. Steve says the short takes are cool. Everyone is cropping their videos into shorts now. Tim Black, Joe Rogan, and others. Nobody wants to sit through a 2-hour video. I know. Evelina says thanks for the tip. Yeah, that's why I'm going with more short takes now, because I know that's true. I know I have to get into short takes. But some people are sitting through long shows. Jamaro Thomas's show on Sputnik is a 3-hour show in the morning. Steve says the nasal spray could take the place, of masks. I'll Google COVID-19 nasal spray and see if it's what I was talking about. James says, you have a channel I can subscribe to. You have videos on YouTube. So what name do I search for? Search for Joseph Firestone, and you should be able to find it there. Let me see. I just posted to the... I must have 100 videos up there now, maybe more. More than that. Yeah, Joseph Firestone will get you to the channel. My short video on the executive order to extend unemployment now has 37 views since this morning, at about 11 o'clock. That's the best I've ever done on YouTube for any videos. So that is promising. I did get 16 views for my 2 questions video. I thought that was a real good one. I got 21 views for Karen Bass disqualified, but that was a long video. That was not a shorty. Oh, I got 47. Oh, gee. I did get 286 views for the challenge to Ilhan Omar. I didn't realize that had gone so well. I should track what's going on at YouTube, a little more. Most of my effort is still going to Facebook, which it shouldn't be. Anyway, James, that's where my YouTube channel is. And my Facebook channel is on, if you search on Joe Firestone, I think you'll get to my Facebook channel. It's actually Let's Get It Done is my handle on Facebook. So if you look for Let's Get It Done, all one word, you should also be able to find me there. And Sandy Degg says he likes money. Who likes money? Kay says, YW Evelina, it's on at 1 p.m. On at 1 p.m., I guess that's Ohio time, my time. Oh, Jank likes money. Yeah, I think he does. I think he wants to be successful monetarily. I think his father was, and he wants to be successful too. Carmen says, Jenk the snake. And Kay says, her co-host used to be Michael, but he died, so it varies now. Yeah, I thought it was Michael Brooks. I wondered if she had a co-host now. Evelina says, sounds like it. Carmen, Steve Wolfman says, any gold left in Fort Knox? Just curious where to go. I think that's a secret, how much gold is still left in Fort Knox. James Edwards says, anyone else lose the feed? I don't know. I'm only 3 minutes away from where you posted that. I don't think anybody's lost the feed. When Kamala gets nervous, she gets nasal. Laugh out loud. So irritating. Yeah, I've noticed that. I noticed that. She gets more nasals. Sandy says, we could just put 2 corks up our noses. God. Carmen says, ha ha ha, you're plucking of people's nerves with the QAnon drivel again. Lana says, not yet, James. Dr. Joe has several books on Amazon. They're short books, not textbooks. Well, they're not that short, actually. They're, I think that Fixing the Debt is considerably over 200 pages. But no, okay, it's not a textbook. They're books that I believe are fairly easy to read. I would say they're written more New York Times style than they are textbooks. Steve says, Joe's on FB every day except Friday and Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific. And welcome. Okay, one correction. I'm on now Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I spend Mondays working on short takes, and I do post at least one short take, okay, on Monday, and then some other short takes on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I like to spread out the short takes, which are videos, okay, as opposed to live stream, okay. And then, of course, I live stream, okay, on Saturday, and that's also at 6 p.m. PT, 9 p.m. ET. So I'm on a lot, and I'm usually on from 9 to 11 or so when I'm live streaming. That is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'm off on Friday and Sunday. I like to take those days off to do things like laundry and also, thank you, Sandy, who says we need to all go into YouTube and like the videos and subscribe. Please subscribe. The more subscriptions, okay, notifications, the more I can build things up there, which I suppose will help. Though I'll probably be thrown off there somewhat because I guess I do my share of obscenities from time to time, which seem to be a violation of YouTube standards or something. But anyway, my regular time for live streams is 9 o'clock, Tuesday through Thursday and Saturday. And I don't have a regular time for the videos. In other words, the non-live stream videos, okay, the recorded videos. Of course, once I finish with the live streams, they're all available, okay, as videos. But they're long. And I would really appreciate, okay, an editor who could cut them into short pieces, because there are a lot of pieces there that could be cut into short videos. But I won't have the time to do it. It takes too long to prepare for the live streams. I usually prepare a number of articles for the live streams and go through them and comment on them, and then I weave everything together as well. So James Edwards says, I'm trying to check them out right now, but I lost the feed for a moment and I missed everything. Well, as I said, for YouTube, search on Joseph Firestone, and you should be able to find my channel. And for Facebook, if you search for Let's Get It Done, Let's Get It Done, one word, you'll find me. Evelina says, Kamala is so irritating. Yeah, I find her irritating too. And I reflected on why that was. I found her irritating actually from the beginning. And the reason why is she seemed to me to have that snob thing going. The same kind of thing going that Hillary Clinton had. It's just something like it's just a jocularity about things that people should not be jocular about. Okay, if you remember, when the people who were displacing him got rid of the very brutal Gaddafi in Libya, they did it by inserting a sword up his anus. And when Hillary heard about it, she joked and said, we came, we saw, he died. And she giggled because she knew very well the way in which he died. Well, when Kamala was talking about those two mothers in California she put in prison because their children were truants, okay, at school, she was being jocular in the same way. Of course, it wasn't quite as horrible as Hillary being jocular. Now, I know that Gaddafi was a terrible man. He was a terrible man. But it really shows a mean streak to be taking pleasure in that kind of death. So, when someone is jocular about that kind of thing, it strikes me that that is an unfailing person who uses others as a means and who doesn't have much empathy at all. And that's the way Kamala strikes me. Sorry. Carmen says her voice alone irritates me. Steve says Kamala's laugh is hideous, worse than Hillary. But very like Hillary's, isn't it? It's very like Hillary's. James Edwards says, Kay, found them interesting. Kathy Langcott says, if Shahed Buttar beats Pelosi, who becomes the speaker? Do they nominate and vote for someone new? Yes, they do. There's no speaker succession. There's a vote actually every 2 years. But Nancy Pelosi has dominated that vote since she took over the leadership of the party. I think she first took it over in 2004 when Gephardt ran for president. She took over, as the leader of the Democrats. So since then, she has dominated. She's gotten a challenge once or twice from Tim Ryan, but he got nowhere. But yes, if Shahed beats her, she'll be out of the Congress and she won't be speaker. Who's going to be nominated? I don't know. Hakeem Jeffries is probably going to be one candidate. Probably Barbara Lee, may be another candidate. Karen Bass could become a candidate on the progressive side. Barbara Lee is also on the progressive side. And maybe Pramila Jayapal could be put up as a candidate, or maybe Ro Khanna, though probably the party will go for another lady. But Ro Khanna would be a very, very good speaker. Very, very powerful speaker. By the way, Ro Khanna would be a good candidate for president also. He was born in Philadelphia. He's a citizen by birth, and he can run for president. And he's a real Bernie-crat through and through. So, I don't know whether AOC would run for speaker. It'll probably depend on how many new progressives we are able to elect. If we can get 20 or 30 of them, maybe she would throw her hat into the ring as a potential speaker. She would, of course, be dynamite. James Edwards says, laugh out loud. I have this live chat on speaker, and something Dr. Joe said set off my Google Assistant. Oh, sorry, I scrolled down again and missed my feed. Set off my Google Assistant, which killed my connection to the video for a moment. FML. Oh, I see. Steve says they're saying but Kamala is not allowed to be president because she's an immigrant. No, she's not an immigrant. She was born here in this country. When they lived in this country, I don't know if her mother or father, was an immigrant at the time, but people who were born in this country have the right of citizenship, I believe, still. So no, I don't think that she is technically an immigrant, though her mother and father were immigrants, and for a while they lived in Canada too. And I believe her father has gone back to Jamaica. I'm not sure her mother's still here. I don't know what the situation is. Her sister is still here and works for the Hillary think tank, the Center for American Progress, as I recall. Steve Wolfbrand says she's just Hillary and Cinnamon. Margot says, no, she was born in Oakland, California. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought she was born here. And probably when they were in California. Because her father was, I think he got his PhD at Stanford. And her mother was studying there too. It was either that or her father was teaching at Stanford at that time. But I think he got his PhD at Stanford. He's a PhD economist. As far as I know, he is not an MMTer. Sandy says, that's after you two, Steve. Steve says, Monday is traditionally laundry day, laugh out loud. We usually do our laundry either on Friday or on Sunday. We do it on one of the days off, but those are days for other things like just general housekeeping of various kinds, finances, just not, feeling the pressure of having a live stream that has to be prepared, for the day. I know a lot of people don't actually prepare their live streams, but I'm trying to do particular things, with my programs. And each day is something new. So I have to prepare it. And of course, as you know, the live streams are lengthy, so I'm preparing a lot of stuff each day, which is my fault. That's the kind of show that I wanted to do, an in-depth show. Steve Wolfbrand says, Margot Shepard, okay, I wasn't aware of that. Lana says, that was so horrible. Yeah, you're talking about the Gaddafi thing. Yeah, that was really horrible. And Carmen says, I only have the Wi-Fi extender for your show, but I'll try to borrow it to go over your short takes and take notes for homework. Yes, the feed, yes, they did. HRC laughed like a psychopath. She did. She did. Sandy says, Hillary Clinton is cold. Yeah, I think that's the... And Deborah says, my take on Kamala. Exactly. Yeah. Hillary once laughed about getting a rapist of a 12-year-old girl off the charges. She is evil incarnate. And Carmen says, HRC has a sadistic streak, and it's coming out in Kamala as well. Carmen says, yes, I heard the video. Steve says, Shahid has been painted as a misogynist. Okay, I don't think so. Okay, I seriously doubt that. I've listened, to both sides. Okay, but I will say this. Shahid's characteristics as a manager, however regrettable, however incompetent they are, pale before the stakes of that particular election, of his challenge to Nancy Pelosi. We are quite clear about where he stands from a policy point of view. And nobody doubts that he stands for those things. People who worked for him here in the D.C. area are very high on him. And by the way, they do not believe the misogyny charges for a minute. They are not believed by Kevin Zeese and Margaret Flowers, two leaders of the progressive community in the Washington, D.C. area, and Maryland. And they are not believed by other people who work with him here. And people from the New York area who know him very well do not believe it for a minute. And they've been watching him for years. So I doubt that any of this is true. But even if some of it was a little bit true, and even if he he made people feel that he was managing in a gendered way at various times. That all pales before the challenge to Pelosi. If Shahed has these faults, we can get him voted out in 2 years. But right now, let's get him voted in so we can get voted out of the lady who has been hurting us all these years with her pay-go nonsense, with her austerity, and with her opposition to real progressivism. We need to get her out. He is in the hunt for November 3rd. The issues that have arisen with respect to his campaign are a big distraction. We cannot allow ourselves to be distracted by something like this. If it had come up when there were 5 people running against her and there were other progressives to turn to, then maybe this would have been more significant. But it's just all too convenient that it's come up now when there are only 2 people who are running and he is one of them. It has all the marks of a smear, as does the smear against Alex Morse, in Massachusetts. As the days go by, more and more things come out about that, and it's more and more clear this was a smear in which Congressman Richie Neal was involved at some level. So the mainstream uses any tactics they can use to get rid of threats. And when things like this surface, we have to learn not to take them so seriously and to look at the context. Carmen says, I heard the audio sickening. That's probably it, Dr. Joe. She's a snob. Kamala's probably sympathetic of the caste system. Her mom was from India, and her dad's ancestor, a slave master, I read. Well, I don't know that she quite identifies with her dad's ancestor, who was a slave master. I wouldn't, necessarily assume that about her. But she did use the prisoners in California who were due to get out. She kept them in prison so that she could use them to fight fires, at $1 a day. So whatever her ancestor did in that situation, she was acting the part of the slave master herself. Because let's face it, $1 a day may not be legally slavery, but it is actual slavery. Squad, and Steve says, at least the squad is back. More than the squad will be back. Jamal Bowman will surely win. Monday Jones is surely going to win. Cori Bush is surely going to win. At this point. So we're looking right now, right this minute, at 3 new additions. Kara Eastman has a very good chance in her election. I believe Dana Balter in New York has a very good chance, in her election. I think there are people in Washington and California who also have extremely good chances to win. We may be looking at a squad with 12 to 15 people in it. I think the squad also may have to make a decision, specifically whether they're going to let any men in to the squad or just keep it all female. It's been a cozy sisterhood up until now. Kay says, the Humanist Report did a good interview with Shahed for Congress today addressing that, Steve. Yes. Yeah, Mike Figueredo did an excellent job with that interview, okay, of Shahed. Shahed did an excellent job himself, okay, in answering Mike. But that was a great interview. I think Mike really did his homework, and he handled it in a very sensitive way. Mike is very, very good. Steve says, AOC as speaker, can you imagine that? Yeah, I can imagine that. I can imagine the real resistance that would come from that. The real resistance. Steve says, AOC's mother is dead. Her father is dead. But when did her mother die? I was sure her mother is still alive. But did her mother just die? If so, I think that would be terrible for her. Her father's death was only a few years ago. Well, I guess it was more than a few years ago, more like maybe 6 years ago or something like that. But that was bad. Carmen says DT will try to change that just to nullify Kamala's VP run. That's nonsense. I mean, he's not going to be able to do it. Evelina says, what did they say? Steve, a few new additions to the squad. Well, I mean, I'm very optimistic. There might be 6 or 7 new additions to the squad before we're through this year. Steve says, yes, wonderful. Kay says, go check it out on YouTube, Evelina. It was too long to sum up, about 45 minutes. That was. It was a good interview. Evelina says her dad, I think. And Jim Bird said, hi, Jim Bird. He said, KH couldn't make it through one primary season. It seems they're seeing how bad can we get, and people still vote for them. Yeah, I don't see the logic of what they were doing. In the primary season, she turned out to be a dud against other Democrats. She wasn't able to hang in there. When she left, she was at 4%. And she was beaten among the demographic blacks soundly by Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, okay, and Elizabeth Warren. By all three. Then she had very little appeal to American blacks. Why does Biden think she's going to have considerable appeal now? I don't see it. I just don't see it. Now, she will be good as an anti-Trump campaigner, okay, and politician. She will give him what for, and she will be effective. And she will beat him to a pulp on COVID because she's going to have her fingers on those statistics. We can tell already. And she's going to be comparing them to the Second World War, and she's going to be comparing them to this and that, and she's going to be comparing other countries to them. she is going to really wipe the floor with him on COVID. He hasn't seen anything yet because, of course, the Democrats were incompetent at doing that in Congress because Nancy Pelosi didn't have the wit to do that. She should have been raking him over the coals about COVID since the CARES Act was passed. She should have gone after Trump on COVID since then, continuously. We've hardly heard anything from her. Anything from her. Anything from the Democrats in Congress about it. Yeah, they've talked about, how bad COVID is, but they haven't gone after Trump. They haven't gone after McConnell about it, really. By the way, what the hell is Amy McGrath doing there? What is she doing there? She should be raking McConnell over the coals over not providing more relief for COVID. I mean, the people in Kentucky have to be taking it in the neck, along with everybody else. It's a poor state to begin with. I mean, the people needed the $600 a week. Why hasn't McGrath been tearing McConnell a new one over the $600 a week, over the fact that he wasn't extending the $600 a week, over the fact that he wouldn't vote with the Democrats on it and pass the HEROES Act? I mean, what is she doing down there in Kentucky? She should be beating McConnell to a pulp by now. But no, centrist Amy, she's not doing any of that stuff. She's probably preaching austerity down there. Steve says, I still believe in Shahed. So do I. Kay says, me too, Steve. Jim says, but more important than that, whether you believe the charges or don't believe the charges, take it up with him in the next election. He'll be a backbencher for the first 2 years. To vote him out in favor of somebody else who treats people better will be nothing in the primaries 2 years from now. But right now, we have a chance to get Nancy Pelosi. Let's put her to bed. Let's send her back to play with her grandchildren. Jim Bird says, can't wait for the next level of corruption. Love the two-party go appeal. What's that? I'm not sure. Steve says, no work tomorrow, my birthday. Happy birthday, Steve. Happy birthday. Kay says, happy birthday, Steve. Dolores says, happy birthday. Jim Bird says, duopoly. Steve Wolfbrand says, thank you. Evelina says, I'm willing to give Shahed the benefit of the doubt, I think. I'm arguing the benefit of the doubt doesn't matter. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt too. But that really doesn't matter right now. He hasn't been accused of any crimes. There's nothing like that in here. He's basically being accused of being a bad manager who was somewhat genderist. Last I looked, that may be regrettable. It may be condemnable. But it's nothing compared to the things Nancy Pelosi has done to us over the years. He can get rid of her for us. That will be the service of a lifetime. Carmen Muniz says, I read Kamala coached Ford to testify against Kavanaugh, but I couldn't finish it, because my connection dropped. I don't know whether she coached Ford or did not coach Ford, but I'm sorry. I think Ford, was eminently believable. And I believed her in an instant. And I think that Kavanaugh acted like a guilty man all the way through. All the way through. His rages were false. He knew he was guilty. Steve says, me too. Sandy says, wouldn't that charge come about, Shad, long before this? I don't believe it either. Yes, it would have come about. It would have come out about him, okay, long before. And Margaret Flowers and Kevin Zeese would long since, before he even ran out there, if they thought about him, that story would have been told. Jim says, happy birthday, Steve. Marco says, happy birthday. Steve says, Shahed was set up. I think so, too. This Liz Croydon, she sounds like bad news. She was evidently bad news in New York. She was bad news in the D.C. area. She was bad news in Los Angeles. And I think she was bad news up in San Francisco. I think she starts spreading her bad news all over the place. James says, a very merry unbirthday today and a very happy birthday tomorrow, Steve. And Steve says, thank you, Margot. And Carmen says, McGrath is a neo-lib. I know she's a neo-lib. Contemptible neo-lib. And Alana said, hope you have a nice birthday, Steve. And Evelina says, Feliz cumpleaños, Steve. Cumpleaños. And Steve says, thank you, brother. And Sandy says, happy birthday, Steve. Steve says, gracious, Hermana. And Steve says, thanks, Sandy. And Margot says, she. Evelina Aponte waves. Margot says, she is upper class in this class war. Yeah, that's what it's about. Carmen Muniz says, Kamala is an overseer. And Evelina gives Steve Wolfbrand a thumbs up. Evelina says, ha ha ha, capataz in Spanish. Steve Wolfbrand says, I think our prisoners here in California fighting our fires should be allowed to join the fire department when they get out. Well, that might be a good idea if they want to continue to risk their lives in California forest fires, Steve. I mean, maybe they want to save their lungs. Sandy says, I'm so happy we are getting more new people in Congress. By the way, that's the Justice Democrats' strategy, which is to primary the establishment Democrats in solid blue districts. It's not to go after Democrats in swing districts. They haven't been doing that, actually. And Bonnie is just sitting down.
Visiting.
I think she's about to start to giggle and laugh.
Yes.
And Lana says, that pesky record. Kay says, I can't believe what Oakland has become. My dad's brother was a developer out there in the 50s and 60s. And Steve says, Angelica Duenas lost her father. Rest in peace. We love you, Angelica. Thank you, Steve. Is that recent? Steve, I think you and Devora are in the same congressional district because Devora has contributed money to Angelica also. Steve says, and maybe I was wrong, I thought AOC's father was still alive. Oh, no. Her father is definitely dead. That's why she had to come back okay, and work in the bar, okay, in New York City and in other things as well, because her father died and she had the help to support the family. That's the original reason why she came back to New York. Um, so Kay says, down ballot races, so it counts now that we have Biden Harris at the top. And they do count a lot, and we have to be active in those races. We have to make our contributions to people who are looking good, because they groomed Kamala back in the Hamptons a few years ago. I think some of them groomed her even before that. Evelina says, black women seem to be for Kamala, not black men, though, from what I heard. Well, she put a lot of black men in prison when she was out in California. And as for black women, there are a lot of black people who don't know her record. They're uninformed about the politics of this, and they're they're very vulnerable to the identity appeal, and that's what's up. And McGrath is a neo-lib. Absolutely, she is a neo-lib. Evelina says Ford was telling the truth and Kavanaugh was not. Yeah, I think so. Kay says, I saw a post that people were protesting at his Kentucky office with signs that said, where's our money? Well, he needs a few thousand people at his Kentucky office with signs saying, where's our money? He needs 100,000 people outside of his Kentucky office with signs that say, where's our money? That's what he needs. Then he'll come crawling back to Washington real quick.
Will they go outside his house? In front of his house?
Have they gone outside his house yet? They probably wouldn't be able to get on his property. It's probably a big mansion.
Maybe it's gated.
I think he and his wife are very rich. Evelina says Ford was telling the truth and Kavanaugh was not. And Margot Shepard says, Kamala. Sandy says, hello, Bonnie. Steve says, Doc, you ever taken psychedelics? Well, at one point back in the 1960s, I tried some grass, and I even inhaled it.
Didn't do anything.
But it didn't do anything for me. And so since then, okay, I've never had the urge to try. I don't really drink much either. I enjoy some wine. I've never enjoyed getting plastered. So I never do that. I have, I think, very healthy ways of feeling real happy, okay, and getting high that do not involve any artificial stuff. Julie Pulley says, the mainstream media is tooting the identity politics all over the place. I know that's all they do because they don't want to see to it that people have a good life. And the identity politics is a distraction. You get status instead of what you need. You get more status. Kay says too many are uninformed voters for sure. That's one of the main problems in this country. Steve, where did that come from? Julie says, hi, Steve. Carmen says, South Dakota governor is building a wall around her home. I wonder if she's expecting protesters. Probably. Okay, is it a high wall? Is it a wall as high as the one at the border? And she's the Trumpist, isn't she? Or the Trumper, the South Dakota governor. Steve says, hi, Julie. Kay says, it took a few times to get for me to get a buzz too, laugh out loud. Yeah, I just didn't think. I mean, why incur the expense? At the time, okay, I used to smoke a pipe, sometimes even cigars, and I really liked those. But Bonnie and I quit tobacco in 1988, working together, and we've never regretted it. We're sure that's why we still are alive at this point. We think it makes that much of a difference. Probably would have taken 10 years off our lives if we continued. I really believe that. Kay says, I used to make killer brownies back in the day, but they always made me too high, laugh out loud. Others loved them, though. No wonder. No wonder. Mary Jane brownies.
There was also a lot of happy people around her.
Yeah, there must have been a lot of happy people around you, Kay. Carmen says, yes, it's going to be an expensive wall. Hope the taxpayers in South Dakota are not going to pay for it. Steve says, comparing weed to psychedelics is like comparing a firecracker to a hydrogen bomb. Well, that may be, but after all, weed is a psychedelic, isn't it? Okay, weed, okay, and the magic mushrooms, LSD, all psychedelics. Comparing a firecracker to a hydrogen bomb. Okay, folks, I think it's time to say goodnight. Thank you for coming. Thank you for engaging. I hope to see you all on Saturday when I'll be back with a regular live stream. And I hope you all check into my shorter videos on both YouTube and Facebook at my Facebook page, where you are now. So I guess one more thing that I should do is, in closing, is to share my promo once again for you or for me, as the case may be. And so there it is. You can see at the bottom my Patreon account, patreon.com/Joe_Firestone. Thank you very much. And good night. Good night. Sweet dreams. James says good night. Sandy says have a great night. Kay says yes, they were happy people back then. For some reason I can't read this whole comment, Kay. It's blocked out by something that says new comments, and I can't get rid of the new comment sign. So excuse me for not reading the whole the comment, but you have a great night, and I'll see you on Saturday.